That's the best way I can describe this yarn, as a Pinot Noir stain. 6 weeks. 6? It did not look like I was knitting. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Knee Knits. My name is Amy, and here I talk about all things knitting. And today is podcast episode number 19, and I'm going to be sharing with you what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. In today's episode, we have 2 finished objects that I'll be sharing. I have a small amount of works in progress and 1 new cast on, and I'm also going to be sharing some updates on my plans for the next month or so as we shift away from summer and into fall knitting. So we'll just hop right into what I'm wearing, which I'm super excited to talk about. So I will push my hair back so you guys can see most of the top half of this tank top. This is the Audrey top by Petite Knit that I finished a few weeks ago. I think I actually finished it right after filming the previous podcast, episode number 18. So this is about 2 weeks off the needles, and I have been wearing it a lot. I wore it that weekend 2 weeks ago, and then I wore it again the weekend after that, and I've been really enjoying the top. Some basics about this pattern: it is by Petite Knit. I think I mentioned that a few moments ago, but this is one of her more recent summer patterns from earlier this year. It is a DK weight knit, and it is suggested to hold 2 strands of fingering weight linen together to create that DK weight knit. I knit this on 4mm needles, which is the suggested needle size. The construction of this tank top is bottom up, so you start in the round and just plain stockinette until you get to the underarm division right here, and then you do the front panel and the back panel separately flat. There is some decreasing along the front and decreasing along the back. I'll show you guys quickly what the back looks like because it's a little bit different. The back goes higher. It does have some I-cord straps, and similar to the bottom hem with the raw stockinette edge, the bind off edges also are raw stockinette. And in general, I think it's a really fun casual tank top. I think the style I really like. I find it very wearable, and I really enjoyed knitting it as well. So the yarn I used for this is Quince & Co. Sparrow, which is a fingering weight 100% linen yarn, and I have it right here. This is in the color Eclipse, which is I would say a true black. And I'll just show you up close. It comes in 50 gram skeins, and it is held double. That's how I held it in this pattern. I knit the size small, which my normal petite knit size is small, and the suggested ease is about 0 to 2 inches of positive ease. And after finishing this tank top and measuring it, I measured about 2 inches of positive ease on me. So that is what the size looks like in comparison to the suggested positive ease. I really like the fit. At first, I was worried that I made a size too large because I had knit this and blocked it by just soaking it in some water with some wool wash and then laying it flat to dry, and then I wore it for a whole day, and it kind of stretched out a little bit, which is expected with linen and other plant fibers, especially in summer knits. So it had stretched out a lot around, this area here, and it was gaping pretty low. It felt pretty open around my chest area, which I was getting a little worried that it was just going to be too large for me to continue to wear. And I was about to tell you guys to knit a size down, but I'm not going to suggest that yet because I ended up putting this in my washing machine with my other clothing on the cold wash cycle. So I washed it and then I laid it flat to dry, and it kind of shrunk up a bit back to the original size that it was when I was knitting it. And I was super happy because I was no longer having that fit issue. And the yarn is advertised as machine washable, and with 100% linen, it's actually encouraged to machine wash because that agitation and extra time in the water is really going to soften the fibers and make them more enjoyable to wear. So I am really impressed with how this washed. I've actually washed this twice now because I wore it on some pretty hot summer days. Nick and I went to the Cape a few weekends ago, and I wore this there, and it was really nice and comfortable. I barely felt it on my skin, and it was a hot, humid day. We were by the water, so this definitely got kind of sweaty, salty, and definitely needed a wash. So I washed it after that, and then I wore it again the following weekend. Nick and I took another weekend trip to New York City, and I wore it around, and we were running around the city all day. It was a beautiful summer day. It wasn't too hot, but it was definitely warm, and in combination with all of the running around we were doing to see a bunch of different things, you know, it got sweaty again. So machine washed it, and this is what it looks like after 2 machine washes. I did want to comment on how the fabric has changed a little bit, like the coloring. You might have already noticed when I held up the ball of yarn, but I do have my swatch. So this was my original swatch for the project, and this had just been wet blocked and then laid flat to dry. I did not put this through the washing machine at all, and you can kind of see the color difference. It's very slight, but as you would imagine, the machine washing did fade the color a little bit. It also faded the sheen. The swatch is very shiny, and so is the yarn. You can really see in the yarn ball, I think, how shiny it is. And you can see in comparison to the tank top after being washed, it doesn't have that same shine. So that's just something to note that I wanted to share with you. I don't think it's a problem at all. I'm super happy with it. I think that's kind of expected with linen. It kind of has more of a matte finish than it did when it was first being knit. Just so keep that in mind if you're trying to knit this in the same yarn, that you will experience kind of like a lack or a loss of luster after machine washing it. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's much else to say about this top. It was a really quick knit. You know, it was on 4mm needles compared to all of the fingering weight knits I've been doing this summer. This felt like a breeze. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I think the fit is really nice. I will comment that I really like how the back goes all the way up to here. Like, it's pretty much sitting right at the back of my neck. I think that helps with the fit a lot. A lot of my other tank tops with I-cord straps, they're more symmetrical, whether they're the triangle tank tops or my couture top, which is a very similar shape to this. It's more symmetrical where the strap will go down your back a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think I prefer this. It does fit a lot nicer. I also haven't been having any issues with stretching out of these I-cord straps. It might be because it's the linen. When I was knitting it, I did make sure to give it a lot of stretch before I measured it and then tacked it down to the back of the tank, just to sort of get ahead of the stretching. But the linen, I feel like it's not stretching at all. Like, I feel confident pulling on this and it's really not getting much longer. Whereas with some other yarns, like, I would be afraid to pull on the I-cord because I know it would just really expand. So I really like this top. I can totally see myself making another one next year, maybe in a totally different color, like a really light color I think would be nice. I would definitely reuse the yarn or purchase the same yarn in a different color. I thought it was super enjoyable to knit with and didn't have too many issues with it being linen. Like, it wasn't stiff on my hands. It was, yeah, pretty enjoyable knitting experience. I do have, this is 50 grams left over of the linen yarn, and I like to keep scrap yarns for scrappy projects, but scrappy projects I find are best when they have similar fibers. So I keep a lot of my leftover wools or sock yarns because those can ultimately be combined into a larger project, but I don't really see myself using these linen scraps, and this is basically a whole skein. So I wanted to ask any of you guys, if any of you want this, I will send this to you. If you're in the US, I just would rather pass it off to someone who wants it. Maybe if you want to do like a striped summer shirt or something, send me an email. I'll put it here, whoever emails me first, and if you're in the US, I will just ship this to you at no cost. I just want to, you know, get it out of my yarn collection because I know I'm not going to use it. It's just one of those things that I know I'm not going to use it, so I'd rather pass it off to someone who will. So I'll just put that out there. And that's my Audrey top. I hope I covered everything on it. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but if you have a question about it, just leave it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it. And I have my other finished object here. So this is my finished Lanikai Summer Tee. This is a pattern by Sally Yee, and I finished this pretty recently, just earlier this week, and I'm super excited to show it off to you guys. Like, I just love it. I believe last time I left off with this project, I was working on the raglan increases for the sleeve, so I finished those and then just did the rest of the stockinette body, which you can see is not very long, and obviously these sleeves are not very long, so it was a pretty quick finish after that. You know, once a project gets into stockinette mode, smooth sailing from there. So I knit this with Sorella Yarn Bamboo Sock in the color Pinot Noir, which is from their Spring Tonals collection. Bamboo Sock is 80% superwash merino wool, 20% bamboo. It is their spring base, so both the color and the base are only available in the spring. I really love the color, and I feel like I've had a hard time describing it because it's like a warm purple. It definitely can be seen as more pink. When I ordered the yarn, I was kind of expecting it to be more on the deeper red side, and it's called Pinot Noir, and this obviously is not the color of like a glass of red wine, but I had this connection in my brain that it's like the color of if you spilled a glass of Pinot Noir on your white carpet, which luckily I have no experience with that. I only know that image from like the OxyClean commercials or some other spot cleaning commercials. So that's the best way I can describe this yarn, as a Pinot Noir stain, which hopefully you never experience either, but it's just really nice, and I really enjoyed knitting with the yarn. The Bamboo Sock is a fingering weight yarn, but I feel like this knit up more like a sport weight yarn. It was definitely on the thicker side. It's a very round yarn, about 4 plies I think, and it wasn't splitty. It moved pretty smoothly. It was definitely slippery. So I knit this on my Birchwood Knitter's Pride needles, which helped with the slipperiness of it. I really love the tonality of this hand-dyed yarn. I'm definitely falling for hand-dyed tonals. Like, it just looks so nice. It adds so much dimension with just still being a solid color. I did use 2 skeins of yarn to make this t-shirt. I actually used less than 2 skeins, so it was a total of 175 grams of the Bamboo Sock to make size 2 in the pattern, and I didn't alternate skeins for the whole project. I just alternated when I reached close to the end of the first ball. I introduced the second ball, did some helical knitting, and at that point, that was after all of the patterning was finished, so it was all in a stockinette area down here. I did about 2 inches of helical knitting to blend those skeins before just using the second skein for the rest of the body, and I don't think you can tell at all that there's 2 different skeins. I think it helps, like these 2 skeins, when I got them, they didn't look very different. Like, they definitely looked very similar. They might have even been dyed in the same pan. I don't know that, but pretty good color distribution. No issues with color blocking with switching skeins here. The yarn, I feel like, created a beautifully drapey t-shirt. You can see how it folds up there. It's very sort of light and flowy. It's super soft to the touch. Soft where I think I might encounter some pilling issues in the far future, and I'll just show you guys the fabric up close. This was definitely one of those knits that really transformed after I blocked it. I wish I took a better photo of me wearing it before blocking, but before blocking, all of these lace sort of columns, rows, were sort of bunched up on each other. It didn't really lay flat, and it definitely had more of a snug fit around my shoulders and my arms, and definitely around the hem where the ribbing was. It really cinched in, but blocking totally transformed this into this beautiful, you know, flat laying drapey piece. Although I didn't encounter many dimension changes after blocking it. So before blocking, I measured the width across the body to be 19 inches when laid flat, and then I blocked it, and then it was also 19 inches when laid flat. So I think the blocking just sort of flattened the fabric. It didn't really grow too much. Oh, also when blocking, I almost forgot. So I put this in the spin cycle on my washing machine, which I've never done before with blocking. I will always roll up my knits in a towel and sort of squeeze the water out by stepping on it with my feet and then laying them flat to dry. And that's fine, I don't mind it, but someone suggested to me in the comments that I should try the spin cycle on my washer. So I did. When this was done being washed, I just squeezed out as much excess water as I could with my hands, and then I just dumped this in my washing machine on its own, put it on the spin and drain cycle. Like 20 minutes later, it came out, and it was not wet at all. It was, it was damp, but definitely got out more water than what I can get out just by stepping on it with towels. And then I laid it out to dry. This was in the evening, and then the next morning it was completely dry. I was shocked. So definitely using the spin cycle again in the future. This is a superwash yarn, so maybe it was less risky than if I had a non-superwash wool in the spin cycle, but I've heard other people using the spin cycle all the time, so I think I'll just start incorporating that into my normal routine for blocking. So yeah, really cute t-shirt pattern. I really like the concept of knit t-shirts that are oversized and drapey like this. I feel like it's just a super easy outfit piece to put on, and you can wear it with, any undergarment. I'm so used to, with all these summer knits, to being really cognizant of what undergarments I can wear with these, but this t-shirt, you can wear anything and throw it on and it looks great. I didn't really do any pattern modifications. I think I did maybe just a 1/4 inch shorter than the suggested length, which isn't much, and it hits at just the right place where I think it looks good, both untucked and tucked in. The sleeve length, I also just did the suggested sleeve length, and I did the suggested twisted rib accents. I did a tubular bind off with the twisted rib, which I think always looks really crisp. For the cast on though, at the neckline, I just did a standard cast on, so I did not do a tubular cast on, and I think that's fine. I think it looks good. I just couldn't be bothered with the tubular cast on for this, and I also didn't want it to stretch out too much, so yeah, that's what I did there. Would definitely knit this t-shirt again, would definitely use this yarn again. So overall, I'm really excited to have knit this project. And this was my last knit summer item to finish. So guys, I reached my little goal of finishing all of my summer knits before the end of August, which I am so excited that I did that. It took a lot of dedication because the cast-on-itis was very real. As my needles were getting cleared, I just wanted to cast on new projects, but I told myself no, just knit the ones already on the needles and try to finish those. So I am very excited to be done with summer. I'm moving into fall knits. I just posted my fall knitting plans video, which goes into depth about all the things that I'll be knitting for the next 4 months, which is very exciting. Now, you might have been wondering why I was so adamant about finishing all of my summer knits by the end of August. You also might not have been wondering, but there was a specific reason for that, and I am ready to share with you guys that I am going to be traveling for the next 6 weeks. 6? My work, I'm full-time an engineer, and I work on a few different internationally based projects, and travel is a part of my position, and I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. So I'm actually going to be flying to Europe at the end of this week. By the time you're watching this video, I will probably be on a plane or very close to getting on my plane for that trip. So that was a big thing that is obviously affecting a lot of aspects of my life, including my knitting life. And with summer projects, I knew that I didn't want to bring any of those projects with me on the needles, and I knew I was not going to get back to them until halfway through October, which didn't make sense for summer knitting. So that's one of the major reasons why I was so adamant to finish all of my summer knits that quickly. I don't normally rush through my projects like that. I also think I had too many summer projects. I think I casted on maybe 1 or 2 too many. So I'll be a little bit more cognizant of that next year, because summer is kind of short here in New England. So I don't want to be stuck with all these projects that I'm forcing myself to finish. But not that I didn't enjoy finishing them all, but it definitely was a push to get them all done without casting on anything new. But that being said, I do have some new cast-ons to share with you guys that fall under the autumn or fall knits category, which I'm super excited to talk about. So yeah, let's go through some works in progress first, and then near the end of the video, I will share a little bit more about my upcoming travels and how that will affect knee knits. But first, on the needles, this has actually been a project ongoing, so this one is not new. And this is my April cardigan. And I'm actually glad that I started this a while ago. I don't remember when I started it. I think it was in the middle of summer and I was just craving something woolly. So I cast it on this April cardigan, and this is the progress so far. The April cardigan is a pattern by Petite Knit. It is a pretty basic cardigan. It has a contiguous shoulder construction here that you can see that I really like, and it's more of a close-fitting cropped cardigan. and I have knit one before and wanted another one, so I am knitting this one in Estelle Yarn's Alpaca DK, which was kindly gifted to me by the Twisted Pearl Yarn Studio. Let me grab the ball. So this is the yarn. It's a DK weight, 60% alpaca, 40% Highland wool. This is the color Charcoal, which is this really nice dark gray with a lot of heathering. It's super soft. I really like how it's knitting up, and I think it'll look and feel very nice in the form of a cardigan. The alpaca will give it some drape and flow, and I'm almost done with the body knitting. I'm almost done with the stockinette body. I'm about to head on to the bottom ribbing. The April cardigan has a very large portion of 1x1 ribbing at the bottom of it, so you start the ribbing pretty early. Like, this looks pretty cropped, but that's just because the ribbing part is really long and that it'll seem more of a more classic length for a cardigan. And you can see I have not done the sleeves yet. I'll get to those at some point, but this is moving along. Don't know if I have much more to say about this. Yeah, I said I want more cardigans in my wardrobe, so I'm trying to fulfill that desire, although cardigans are definitely not my favorite to knit. I definitely prefer a pullover. And now we'll get into my newest cast on, which is the zipper sweater by Petite Knit. I just started this yesterday, and this is my progress. So with the zipper sweater, you start with the collar. So it's just a rectangle knit in ribbing. For the zipper sweater pattern, Petite Knit knits twisted rib, and I am doing the twisted rib. I really like twisted rib, and I think it'll look really good in the zipper sweater. So that's the panel so far. The yarn I'm using is Filcolana Peruvian Highland Wool in the color Charcoal, and I'm holding it with Filcolana Tilia, which is their silk mohair yarn, in the color Black. So this is the Peruvian wool in the color Charcoal. This is definitely more of a black, whereas the other yarn I just showed for my April cardigan is definitely more of a gray. But it's funny because they're both named Charcoal, but this is the Alpaca DK and this is the Peruvian Highland Wool. Both named Charcoal. I mean, different yarn brands, but I would say this is gray and this is definitely more of a black. And yeah, this is the soft silk mohair in the color Black. And I did gauge swatch. I'm trying to be better with my gauge swatches because I feel like I've been having some fit issues, mostly with summer knits, where the fit I feel like is more pertinent to wearing the piece, whereas oversized sweaters, not as important, but I still want to be better with gauge swatching. So instead of doing a 4x4 inch swatch, I did a 6x4 inch swatch, so I have more stitches so I can measure truly in the middle of the swatch, which gives a better representation of your gauge. And with this one, you need a 15 stitch per 4 inch gauge, and this was actually about 16.5 stitches per 4 inches. So I actually increased needle size when casting on, and I'm going to do that for the project. The suggested needle size for the body is 5 millimeters, so I'm going to go up to 5.5 millimeters for the zipper sweater and hopefully get an accurately sized sweater. A lot of positive ease on the zipper sweater. I think it's 13 inches of positive ease, which is what I want. I think that'll be super cozy and easy to wear as an outer layer, and I think it'll look really nice with that much positive ease. With the zipper sweater, you do start with a different cast on than normal or common, and it's called Judy's Magic Cast On, and it's a form of provisional cast on that is used because eventually this long rectangle will get folded to make the collar, and the Judy's Magic Cast On allows for a very clean sort of join when you fold it. So I did Judy's cast on. I know you can probably do a different sort of provisional cast on if you're more comfortable with it. I've done Judy's cast on once before for my first zipper sweater, but didn't remember it, so I had to look up a tutorial. Thought it was pretty easy to follow. I think the trickiest part about it is that you do need 2 sets of knitting needles, and I had just the one. I actually brought this to the waiting room while Nick had an appointment at the dentist, and I was stuck with just 1 set of needles, and I was able to finesse it, but you really do need 2 sets of needles for the Judy's Magic cast on. It was definitely fiddly in the waiting room trying to figure it out. I'm sure if other people saw me, they were probably wondering what the heck I was doing, because it did not look like I was knitting, but I clearly had yarn and needles all on my lap trying to figure it out. But we made it through, and now I'm just continuing on with the twisted rib. And now that you guys know that I'm traveling, I can sort of share how I am influencing. Oh my gosh, sorry, there's a hummingbird that just came to our patio, which is, right behind the camera. And it just came to one of the flowers I have planted. Wow, that just made my day. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, so I'm traveling next week and I want to get this collar finished, because once the collar is finished, then it goes right into all of the raglan increases for, the sweater, which I will think is pretty good knitting for a long plane ride. So I do want to get past the collar fold and then get into the raglan increases, and hopefully that will be my plane project for when I travel next week. So that's what I'm working on now. I will share, I have a new project bag that I got at Nitty City when I was in New York City last weekend. I stopped by for just a very short amount of time. Like I mentioned before, we were running around to try to do a bunch of different things in just one day. So I wish I could have spent more time there, but I really just ran in. I knew I wanted the bag and then I ran out. So really cute store. If you're in New York City, definitely recommend stopping by. I really liked their book selection. They had a ton of books, and again, if I had more time there, I probably would have picked up a book, but grab this instead. It's a really nice project bag, has a box bottom, it does have a zipper, it feels really sturdy, it sits on its own pretty well, so really excited that I got to purchase this bag. So yes, the humble beginnings of my zipper sweater. Very excited for this project. And that's it for my works in progress. It makes sense, like I was sharing with you guys, I was finishing projects and not starting new ones, so I don't have anything else to show you in terms of projects. My other projects that you might remember that are still in the needles include my dorsal socks, which I have not touched, and my Barbara shawl, which I've also not touched, so we'll see if I get to those. I probably won't. They might sit for a while, and that's okay. But I do want to talk briefly about my future plans, or my upcoming plans for the next month. I do still plan on filming podcasts every 2 weeks, and I'm also planning on filming a little pack with me. I think it's a good opportunity to show you guys how I'm planning on packing for 6 weeks away with my knitting projects. It's definitely kind of a unique time period where it's not like a long-term move, but it's certainly not a short-term trip. So I am going to probably bring 2 major projects. One is definitely my zipper sweater. The second one I have yet to decide. I have a couple options. Like I could bring the Judy sweater that I intend to cast on. And if you watch my fall knitting plans video, I shared my swatch for the Judy sweater by Gregoria Fibers. I'm going to knit it in this Juniper Moon Farm Patagonia Organic Merino in the color Violet. Really pretty color, and this is just an oversized drop shoulder sweater, so I could work on that in conjunction with the zipper sweater while I'm away. I think those 2 projects would definitely be enough to fill 6 weeks of time, and maybe one other small project. I could also bring my Whitmore cardigan, which I have not started, but I think that could also be an engaging project to work on instead of the Judy sweater with the zipper sweater, because I feel like the Whitmore cardigan I would want to wear sooner, because the Judy sweater is definitely like a cold weather sweater, whereas the Whitmore cardigan I can start wearing pretty soon as a layering piece. I could also bring my Lento. I have the Lento yarn here. I'm thinking not because I need 2 balls and it would just take up a lot of space. Also have to be cognizant of how much luggage space I can fill with knitting items. Also knowing I'll be able to purchase yarn there, and probably will be purchasing a lot of yarn there because I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm in Europe. So we'll see. Lots coming with that. Probably will have more details in my pack with me video that I am really hoping I film. I don't want to promise it to you guys in case I get too overwhelmed with packing and don't actually end up filming anything, but I'll fill you guys in with what I ended up packing once I arrive if that is the case. So yeah, I am being intentionally vague with my work trip. I cannot share too many details about where I'm actually going to be living for those 6 weeks, but I am going to be working a standard 5-day work week, Monday through Friday, which means I have weekends off to explore. I will be in the EU and hoping to visit a few different countries and cities and yarn stores and filming some vlogs there. Undetermined plans, lots of flexibility, so I will definitely share those with you guys as I do them. And yeah, it should be a fun time. Obviously, I'm there for work. I do know a lot of people who I'll be working with when I arrive over there, so that's good. I won't be completely alone or a complete stranger. So yeah, next time I'll be back in this room will be October, which is crazy to think about, but I'm excited to bring you guys along with me on my upcoming travels. So yeah, a lot going on, a lot coming up, and I guess I'll conclude the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing. I can't believe we've already surpassed 11,000 subscribers. I'm definitely doing a giveaway, but the giveaway will definitely be once I come home again. So it's going to be a bit delayed, but I definitely want to thank you guys for all your support with a fun, big giveaway. I'll probably collect some yarny goodies in Europe to bring home with me for a giveaway for you guys. And with that, I will let you guys go. I'll see you guys in the next video.